It started like any typical morning segment on daylight politics. Nothing out of the ordinary, just another televised debate about policy, filmed live in Des Moines, and beamed across the country. But halfway through the discussion, as Jasmine Crockett was making a point about Iowa's agricultural subsidies, something shifted. Her phone, face down on the table, began to buzz. In any normal situation, a personal call during a live broadcast would have been unthinkable, unprofessional, unacceptable. But some instinct, urged Jasmine to pick it up. She glanced at the screen. Her face drained of color. She mouthed a name almost unconsciously, Ibrahim. A moment passed, then another. 7 seconds of silence on live TV. The host, Shelley Berard, leaned forward cautiously. "Congresswoman?" she said softly. Jasmine didn't respond. Her gaze was locked on the phone. She flipped it over, stared, then slowly picked it up and answered. "Hello?" she said quietly. In the control room, panic erupted. Producers were shouting. A director gestured furiously to cut to commercial. B-roll. Anything. But Shelley, watching Jasmine closely, didn't move. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. On screen, Jasmine's body language shifted. Her polished posture wilted. The confident figure who had moments ago sparred in political banter now looked vulnerable, exposed. She wasn't speaking, just listening. Her hand drifted to cover her mouth. Her eyes blinked rapidly, as if holding back something heavy. And then it happened. A single tear traced down her cheek. The silence in the studio was deafening. Shelley offered gently, "Congresswoman, we can step off the stage if you'd like." Jasmine barely lifted her hand. Not a wave, but a subtle request to stay. "Let me be," she said just above a whisper. Those closest to her could faintly hear the man's voice on the other end of the line. Calm, measured, and heavy. It wasn't about polling or politics. Jasmine didn't speak for nearly 30 seconds. Then into her mic came one quiet word: children. Social media exploded. What had just happened on national television? Was someone hurt? Was it a protest? A breakdown? Speculation flooded Twitter. Then someone zoomed in on a freeze frame. Ibrahim T. That clue cracked open everything. Within minutes, online sleuths confirmed it. Ibrahim Traoré, the transitional president of Burkina Faso, had called Jasmine Crockett live on air. But why? And what did children mean? Even after the show cut to commercial, the studio was frozen. Cameras stopped rolling, but Jasmine stayed on the call, speaking in a whisper. "Are you safe?" she asked. There was a pause. "For now," Ibrahim replied, "but others aren't." Jasmine gripped the phone tighter. "Tell me." "There was a bombing," he said, "in Kaya, a school near the health post." She shut her eyes. "They targeted it. We believe it was deliberate. Children, aid workers, Americans, the bodies." His voice faltered. "They haven't all been recovered." Jasmine leaned forward, one elbow pressed to the desk, fingers covering her lips. A staffer set a glass of water in front of her. She didn't notice. "How many?" she asked. "I don't have the count, but it's bad." "Jasmine, I didn't call for a statement. I called because you cared. Last month, when no one else answered, you did." Jasmine stood abruptly, pacing now. Though the broadcast was off-air, the studio remained live. "We tried to get someone at state to listen," she said bitterly. "No one wanted it on the record." "I know," Ibrahim replied. "They don't see us. Just headlines. And today, there may not even be one." She stopped mid-step. "I'm going to speak on air," she said. "I don't care what they say." A pause from Ibrahim's end. "Be careful. They'll call it a stunt. They'll say it's emotional blackmail. You know how they react when it's not their crisis." "Let them," she said. "Let them choke on their silence." She turned to the producers. "Put me back on." Shelley blinked. "Are you sure?" Jasmine didn't answer. She returned to her seat, placed the phone back on the table, and stared straight into the camera lens. "We're back in 60, someone called. When the red light went on, Jasmine Crockett didn't return to the panel discussion. She didn't transition gently. She didn't apologize. "There's been an attack," she said clearly. "Not here, but it matters." Shelley turned toward her, confused. Jasmine continued. I just spoke with President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. This morning, a school was bombed in the city of Kaya. Children were killed. So were aid workers, including Americans. He called me directly, not for a headline, because he knew I would listen. Her voice cracked. I know some of you are wondering why this matters, Champo, she said. I get it. It's not polling data. It's not trending. But if you heard what I just did, if you heard how his voice broke, you'd understand. Shelley asked, do we know who was responsible? Not yet, Jasmine said. But that's not the point. The point is that children died, while we sat here arguing over grain tariffs. The studio was dead silent. No one moved. No one interrupted. Across the country, people watching could feel something shift. A congresswoman wasn't protecting her image. She wasn't curating a brand. She was simply grieving. And Jasmine didn't know just how many were watching. The network didn't mute her, didn't cut away. They let the silence sit. And in that pause, 30 seconds long, viewers across the nation leaned in. It was a silence full of meaning, full of mourning. She sat there trembling, holding herself together. I've done this job for 4 years, she said. I've seen people fake concern. I've watched us argue for hours over bills we know won't pass. But this is real. She tapped the desk. Those children are gone. Their families won't ever know if their names were spoken outside their village. She looked at Shelley. Remember last month when we were going to do a segment on international aid? Shelley nodded. I asked for 5 minutes to talk about West African education. You said there wasn't time. Shelley looked down. I wasn't mad, Jasmine said. I understood. But now I wonder, what if we had? What if someone had listened? Would that bombing still have happened? Behind the cameras, someone sniffled. A tech wiped his face. I've been asked what makes a politician cry, Jasmine said. It's not a scandal. It's not bad press. It's realizing your silence had a cost. She looked into the camera. I know I'll be called dramatic, that people will say this is performative. But I don't care. If you've ever lost someone and thought, maybe if I had spoken up sooner, then you know how I feel. Her phone buzzed again. This time she didn't look. Shelley whispered, do you want to stop the show? Jasmine shook her head. Number, let's finish it. The next segment went on. No one remembered what it was about. But outside the studio, Twitter exploded. Hashtags, clips, reactions. Some called it the most honest moment in modern politics. Others mocked her. One viral tweet said, now we cry about Africa on live TV? Get real. Jasmine stayed off her phone. She didn't check her email. But by Saturday afternoon, she couldn't avoid it anymore. Her chief of staff, Priya, entered her hotel room carrying a folder of screenshots. Thought you'd want to see these before someone ambushes you on air. Jasmine flipped through them. One headline stung the most. Jasmine Crockett's breakdown. Real grief or political rebranding. She threw the papers down. I didn't plan any of this. I know, Priya said softly, but the world doesn't. A message popped on Jasmine's phone. Ibrahim, they're talking about you here too, but they're grateful. They keep saying, at least someone cried. Jasmine stared at the message. Then she opened notes and began typing. I didn't plan to cry on television. I didn't expect to take a call. But when you hear a school was bombed and children are dead, something inside you breaks. Or it should. If you weren't affected, I worry about your humanity. If you were and stayed silent, I hope you ask why. Grief doesn't need a passport. I won't apologize for feeling. I only wish I'd done more before it was too late. She posted it, and for the first time since the call, she felt like she could breathe. By Monday morning, Jasmine Crockett stood on a small community center stage in Cedar Rapids. No fanfare, no press wall, just a crowd of 80. You've seen the clip, she said. You watched me come undone. I'm not here to defend it. I'm here to tell you why I couldn't stay silent. She spoke of the children, the bombing, Ibrahim's call, the names. They weren't American kids, but they were still kids. And somewhere along the line, we've convinced ourselves that empathy should have borders. An older man in the back raised his hand. My daughter's a nurse. She called me crying during the pandemic. Same look in her eyes. I told her, if you still feel it, you're not numb. Jasmine nodded. That's why I'm here, because I still feel it. And maybe if enough of us do, we can stop the next tragedy before it happens. Afterwards, she answered every question. One woman asked, why care about them when our kids are suffering here? Jasmine didn't flinch. Compassion isn't a pie. Caring about Kaya doesn't mean I care less about Cedar Rapids. It just means I believe all children matter. As she left, Priya caught her arm. You just turned a viral moment into a movement. Jasmine smiled, tired. I'm not trying to lead a movement. You already did. And somewhere in Burkina Faso, a president put down his phone, paused on her tearful image, and whispered, at least she saw us.